I'm the puppet dog.
Hi there, this is the Animal Intuitive channel, and I just want to start off by saying I am not a veterinarian, so I'm going to talk about tonight. If you have any concerns about your pets, please make sure that you do consult always with your veterinarian. And I just want to say hello to everybody too in the chat. Hey Mel Mac, hi, good night Owl. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to jump in as we're talking. Um, and if you are watching the replay, please feel free to leave a comment at any point. I will always answer the comments. So just want to get that out of the way. And my mouse isn't working very well, so I'm kind of like having to reach. If that looks a little weird, that's why I'm doing that. It's catching. So, all right. And tonight we're going to talk about pets who maybe have gone through a trauma or are suffering from grief. And if you're not familiar with this channel, this is the Animal Intuitive channel. And here we give animals a voice through holistic pet care discussions, talking about animal communication. I'm a professional animal communicator and acupressure massage practitioner and energy worker. And we also talk about anything to do with advocacy for pets. So we have guests on as well. And let me just kind of get this going. Okay, my little teleprompter is not working. It was working. Okay, well that's a problem. Okay. It thinks I want to. It was working before. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, guys. It's always something. I don't know why all of a sudden this isn't working. Um, please stay tuned. I'll get it going. This is always the deal. There's always something. It doesn't matter what you do to prepare. This is not an issue before. Hold on one second. Okay. The funny thing is, it keeps asking me for upgrading to premium, and I already did that, so I don't know what the deal is. But I'm just gonna have to do it again and talk to them about it later. Okay, because I need this to work. So maybe that's the problem, that it thinks that. Okay. Come on. Come on. It's asking me to do it again. People drop off and things like this happen. Oh, and my sound isn't. Um, it's not picking up the mic. Sorry. Everything's just not working. I don't. Hello for things. Okay. All right. One more time. This is the Animal Intuitive Channel. I am not a veterinarian. I am an animal communicator. I am an animal acupressure and massage practitioner. And so, if you have a pet who is suffering from anything we're talking about tonight, please make sure that you check with your veterinarian for this. We always want to make sure that you do consult with them. But these are tips and things that I have learned along the way that I want to share with you. And that's what this show is about, is helping animals. And we talk about a lot of things holistically. So, uh, oh, it's really loud now. Okay, let me just turn it. I don't know. Let me know. Is it still really loud? Sorry. Just tell me one more time. Is it super loud? Is it okay? All right. Um, I also want to welcome some new people because we had a bunch of subscribers join us after I was on John Kelly's show, John Kelly Profiler. I want to thank him too for having me on. And this is sort of a carryover of that episode because in that episode, we're talking about some things that happened in our country with, and actually also England, with some animals that witnessed crime, witnessed some terrible things. And we talked about that, but I want to expand upon that because I've been doing a little bit of a series on grief, but more so talking about it from the perspective of how to help people when they've lost a pet or had a pet go missing, that type of thing, and what we can do about that. Dr. Mary Frances O'Connor was on last week, but this is now going to talk about how you help pets when they're suffering from PTSD or grief. So we are not supposed to do long intros on YouTube anymore, and that was the longest intro ever. So hopefully people are still here. So I appreciate everyone's in the chat, and I hope the rest of you didn't totally go away. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so traumatized pets. Pets can suffer from PTSD. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, PTSD is defined as an anxiety disorder. It can develop after a terrifying event and an ordeal which grave physical harm occurred or was threatened. Traumatic events that may trigger PTSD, those include violent personal assaults, natural or human-caused disasters, accidents, or military combat. And studies have actually shown that dogs can have PTSD. I would take this information, we're going to apply it to other animals as well tonight. It's pretty evident that other pets and animals can have these situations too. So it's been estimated that about 5% of 650 million military dogs who work now or are overworking, done with working, suffer from PTSD. And we can imagine why. If they're in a combat situation, of course, there's no doubt that they're going to have that potential to develop PTSD just like a person would. And also search and rescue canines who have been in situations where they're looking for people who've been harmed in disasters, who are no longer alive in disasters. They might have PTSD. But civilian animals can also have PTSD. In a lot of different circumstances that can happen. So it can happen when an animal has been abused, an animal perhaps has been through a natural disaster. So like I have a relative who had a dog who recently passed, but the dog had been through Hurricane Katrina. Dog's name was Levy, and she would just tear the place apart pretty much if she was left alone. I need some coffee. Hold on. That was one of the worst intros I've had, so I need a little reinforcements here. So many rescue dogs could fall into this, not rescue dogs, sorry, many pets could fall into this category. Cats as well. So it could be being abused, being abandoned. Maybe they're even like left in the woods or, left to be on their own. So signs that an animal is suffering from PTSD could be things like elimination and, just kind of randomly, instead of going where they're supposed to go, they're going to the bathroom just all of a sudden. out of nervousness, anxiety, fear. And yes, please do jump in. I do want to thank you, Mel Mac, for mentioning that. You're so great for being here and helping me out. She's a great mod. Mel, thank you. Please do feel free to jump in. Share your thoughts, questions, comments, experiences. So an animal could be eliminating randomly out of fear, anxiety, vocalization. So just remember talking, sort of whimpering, barking, destruction, also sudden or intense responses to things like thunderstorms or other noises, and trying to get away. So maybe they take off when they hear thunder or feel the static or anything that reminds me, static electricity, anything that might remind them that that's coming or alert them that there's thunder or lightning. So animal behaviors traditionally kind of stay away from attributing human emotions such as grief to animals. But actually there's a growing body of evidence that is beginning to really make it clear that many species suffer from not only PTSD, but also grief. So we have seen studies where they're showing animals who have relatives and close companions that they are mourning. And these displays of grief really are just very similar to what humans experience in many ways. So I'm going to talk more about how we can help them. This first part, I'm just talking about sort of giving you some ideas about things that can be done, but I'm also going to do a little demonstration of something that I think can really help your pets if they're anxious or suffering from PTSD or grief, and just actually in general to help them with wellness. Okay, so holistic things that can be done to help pets with PTSD and grief. So these are the things that I'm first going to talk about, I'm really going to focus on as holistic. So acupressure, massage, Tellington tea touch. We had Linda Tellington Jones on here a long time ago. I have a playlist. You can always find these things. You can find acupressure, massage demonstrations on here as well. And things like essential oils, CBDs, pheromones, understanding them from an animal communication perspective. And I'm going to talk more about that as well. Other holistic modalities such as homeopathy, herbs, nutraceuticals such as L-theanine, melatonin, those have been proven to be helpful in treating PTSD. Laser, biologically appropriate diets, medicinal mushrooms, and certain types of training. So I'm a fan of holistic, but there's also prescription medications that are sometimes used when an animal has exhibited some issues with anxiety, of course. So the vagus nerve. So I want to talk about that first. So vagus nerve stimulation, is something that has been practiced for a very long time. So I think about it in relationship to massage and acupressure first. And maybe it wasn't called vagus nerve stimulation, but when acupressure and acupuncture and all of those sorts of modalities came about thousands of years ago. But really, we are helping an animal with relaxation. So I'm going to talk more about the vagus nerve. So vagus nerve is something that has been shown to relax a pet or a person in response to the parasympathetic nervous system, reducing fight or flight stress responses driven by the sympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve impacts regulation of swallowing, vocalization, breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, immune responses, microbiome of intestines, mood, anxiety level, digestion, sleep, how well people and pets recover from illness, accident, stroke, brain injury, and strong vagal tone can improve overall health, physical stability, emotional balance, flexibility, adaptability, recovery and regeneration after shock and trauma, and our ability to connect and engage with others. It is the 10th cranial nerve and the longest nerve in the body. And the word vagus is Latin for wandering. So I'm going to show you a picture of the vagus nerve. So I'm showing you this on a human. I could not find a good picture of the vagus nerve in a pet, in an animal. So it's very similar. If you can just sort of imagine on an animal, this is, oh, actually, you probably can't see my little hand thing doesn't show you my pointer. I actually thought I added a pointer here. Let me see. Yeah, it's not showing up, but it may be a little hard to see, but it's over here on the right side of the diagram. It's actually on both sides of the body, but they have it listed over on the right side, the vagus nerve. And as mentioned, it's the longest nerve, and it affects so many different parts of the body. And you can see how it goes all the way down. You can see it drops down into the digestive tract. So it passes along a lot of parts of the body. And again, this is why the word vagus is Latin for wandering. And so you can see why. I'm also going to show you the vagus nerve in the ear, or near the ear. Let me see here where it starts to go over to my okay, well, it's not showing it. I wanted to show you my screen here, and I had it working before. Like, everything is not working tonight. All right, well, there we go. Okay, so here is the vagus nerve, kind of showing a little bit more close up, and see where it is in relationship to the head and the ear. So the ear is a really great place to access the vagus nerve. And we want to do that because we want to make our sad pets happy. And see, there's a combat dog. There's a sad dog. Okay. Now we're going to have a model tonight. And many of you are familiar with our model, Giovanna. Now, Giovanna sits here, lays here, takes baths, sometimes very explicit baths on the show. So tonight we're hoping that Giovanna is going to cooperate. And my husband is going to help. He is still probably going to remain hidden as he usually does. He's very camera shy, but you may see his arms handing Giovanna to me because I don't think you're going to be able to see that far back. So my husband is going to hand her to me. Yes, no, thank you. More coffee. Okay, so now Giovanna is an example of an animal who has had some trauma and can benefit from stimulation of the vagus nerve. Oh, am I going to hold her? Oh, I thought you were going to hold her. Okay. So I don't think I can do this if I hold her. You kind of have to hold her and lean in. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty good if we can kind of get her well, I'm going to do my best to show you here, but I'll speak my way through it too. So this is actually very simple. It's basically massaging the ear. And if you don't get this exactly, just gently massage their ear. But um, the vagus nerve it emerges from the top of the brain stem, and after leaving the skull, it enters the upper neck, and then goes behind the ear. So it passes behind the ear. So we want to massage her behind the ear, gently, not too hard, but we come up along behind. And then it's also nice to go along the front. That's a little hard to see from this angle. I in no way thought this was going to be easy, but you could probably flip her this way. I could take her and then I could show the other ear, the other side of the ear. She's a big girl, and she doesn't always like to be held. So that's part of her trauma too, because she was in shelters, and I feel like she's probably not handled very gently and well. So she's very resistant to. We're working on it, but she's resistant to some degree to being picked up, and you can see the reaction. So basically, she's going to start reacting. So we want to just kind of go behind the ear. We want to go in front of the ear, and then and then pressing very gently in the inner flap, the flap of the ear, but never go down into the ear canal. This is like a fur tape or ticker tape braid. No, that's okay, unless she's chill, but she's not. She's not going to be chill. Yeah. Okay, so she is a ham, right? She just chooses when to be a ham. And performing for the camera, so not tonight. So I wouldn't have expected anything else from her, really. So it does pass. It passes along the neck, to the throat, to the vocal cords, to the heart, lungs, stomach, liver, kidney, spleen, gallbladder, pancreas, and finally small intestine and part of the large intestine. So just massage their ear nicely. I mean, you don't want to push too hard, and you don't want to just kind of run your, thumb or finger along it so that there's no pressure, but it's just a gentle pressure. And they have used the vagus nerve stimulation device for dogs with drug-resistant epilepsy, and 87% reduction in tonic-clonic seizures in dogs where they have used it. So it really is an important nerve. And this is a quote from a very well-known veterinarian, Marty Becker. And he mentions the vagus nerve. And unfortunately, I just completely fast-forwarded through that. So we're going to see if I can get back there while I just talk. So he mentions the importance of the vagus nerve. Marty Becker's an awesome vet. I've actually been to his clinic with one of my cats a few years back. We traveled over to Connecticut from New Jersey to go there because he's really renowned. He no longer actually, I don't think, actively works there, but he still has a clinic open. He technically is retired, but he just talks about how important it is and massaging it. And so I really encourage you to do that to relax your pet. And you can do that with any pet. So that is the vagus nerve, very important. And then I also want to talk about, I'm just seeing if there's any questions. I know, I messed up her fur. I'm sure she's got to fix that. Okay. that is part of her reaction to being in shelters and everything. So we have to work with her. And this is another thing about trauma and grief and pets. It's just like people, where it doesn't necessarily just heal overnight. We can be doing everything under the sun to help them, but we have to be really mindful that sometimes it's a process of going forward, and then sometimes you even take a few steps back and then you have to go forward again. So don't give up just because things don't change overnight. So a strong vagal tone, as they call it, which can be helped by doing massage, can improve overall health, physical stability, emotional balance, flexibility, adaptivity, recovery, regeneration after shock and trauma, and ability to connect, engage with others. And I think I said that before, and I thought I was reading a quote, and I'm not. I'm trying to find that quote from Dr. Becker, and I thought that was it, but it's not. I'm reading my own words. It'll come up. It's like passing up on the screen, and I have to get it to that point because it went all the way to the beginning. But anyway, I feel like starting this whole show over, to be honest with you, at this point. But so triggers, yes. Were you asking about, is that, I wasn't sure, is that a question, Melmac? I'm not sure. Triggers for Gia. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but for her, it definitely involves being held. Because I think people grabbed her not in a nice way. Okay, so it just did it again. So animal communication, and I want to talk about how that can help with PTSD and grief. So it's jamming up again. Oh my heavens. I'm just going to bring up my, I'm not going to use this teleprompter. I'm going to bring up my script so that I can move it around myself and not have you waiting. I'm so sorry. Kind of a disaster. Okay. All right. Yeah, I can move just to document quicker. So yeah, this is actually something I'm going to talk about because generally speaking, we don't know when they're rescues what has happened with them. And however, that is where animal communication comes in. And animal communication, traditionally by veterinarians and the scientific community, isn't necessarily regarded. However, it is becoming so. And part of the reason for that is that scientific studies are beginning to show how animal communication works. And they're not necessarily saying, let's do a study on animal communication, but they're doing studies on telepathy. And the studies include studies with pets, with animals. And these are scientific studies. So if you question the validity of telepathy, it's starting to become where you kind of can't deny it if you start to read these studies, because these are like published in medical, these are medical papers. So, and they've been around, they just haven't, some of them have been around, they haven't been really like, so clear, I guess, but they're beginning to see things on MRIs. So that's really interesting. There are studies too. I'm going to get to the scientific MRI stuff in a moment, but there's also studies or evidence from field studies. So Jane Goodall, most people have heard of her. She recounted how a young chimpanzee in Tanzania, his name was Flint, he actually died from grief weeks after the death of his mother, Flo. Um, in Kenya, also, Cynthia Moss reported that elephants attend to dying friends and family members, and stroke the bones of deceased relatives. Dr. Mary Frances O'Connor, she spoke about in our last interview the voles study about bonding and how they react when they're separated. It's like a grief response. And also the Rothschild Giraffe Project, which also took place in Kenya. There was a baby giraffe born with a deformed foot, and the giraffe herds synchronized their activities in a different way. Usually they have synchronized activities in the giraffe herds, so they'll go out and do things together, and a mother giraffe wouldn't go more than 20 meters away from this baby giraffe. And unfortunately, the giraffe actually did die, and many of the females in the herd changed their behavior significantly in the wake of the infant's death. So they were really watching over this baby giraffe that was ill and died. So, yeah, that's a great thing, Leslie, and thank you for being here. So, trying to keep your energy positive and upbeat when around your 13-year-old pet when he lost his 13-year-old. I think it's getting cut off. Uncle? Are you talking about a child? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm calling it a pet. I am so sorry. I thought you were talking about an animal. Okay, because it didn't say there, but either way, whatever you did to, whether this is a human or an animal, I think you're talking about your child, is wonderful, because we do have to watch our own energy to help others who are younger and don't really understand necessarily everything that's happening. So, and need help. So also, there are a lot of videos out there you can find about with grief-like behavior with dolphins and whales. Some of the mothers have been seen carrying their infants that have passed in their mouths or on their backs for a week or longer. So, in addition to that, there's this, everyone's heard of this movie, Hachi. It's been a while now it's been many years since it came out, but this professor died suddenly in his university office, and his dog used to come with him to the train, and he would walk him to the train, and then he would wait for him when he was coming home on the train at the train station, and he would go back there and just waited for him until the dog actually passed. So the sad thing about that is that the dog didn't seem to get it, that he wasn't coming back. And this is where animal communication could come into play, because we can help animals understand what's happened better. Some of them seem to get it more than others, more easily than others. Okay, you were talking about your dog, your Shih Tzu. Okay, good. No, that's okay. That's okay. They're like children, so that's okay. I understand the language. And Barbara J. King is a professor of anthropology at College of William and Mary, and her studies of monkeys and apes have led to her examine emotion and intelligence in a wide range of animal species. And she definitely believes that from her studies, the animal who loves will suffer in some visible way, and this is the quintessential marker of grief in animals. So what we can do is we can, in addition to communicating with them, and talk more about that, but maintain a regular routine and exercise regime, give them toys to play with, anything that's going to bring joy back into their life, spending time together, and it might be more than usual, playing with them, cuddling, massage. They're pack animals, so we're talking about dogs here. With domesticated dogs, their human companions are as much a part of the pack as other dogs, so it's really important, especially if they've lost a human, to really help them through that process. And again, sometimes in more severe cases, they may need help with traditional, non-traditional medical interventions. And you also may notice behavioral changes if they have lost another being that they were close with. So just because they weren't maybe with another animal or human for a long time, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be having a big impact on their lives. So it's just not predictive of that. So we want to keep that in mind and not discount how long they had a housemate, perhaps. And potentially, if we ignore this, this is a big deal because a lot of animals do suffer, especially because animals, we care so much about them. We try to help them to live long lives. And so they are at some point potentially going to experience the loss of another that they love. Okay, so in an article called How to Heal an Emotionally Traumatized Pet on the Pet MD website, Dr. Frank McMillan, a research veterinarian and director of well-being studies at Best Friends Animal Society in Kanab, Utah, states that a traumatized animal is at a higher likelihood of becoming re-traumatized if she re-encounters major stressors. So understanding their triggers is beneficial in helping to prevent episodes. And, sometimes we do know what the trigger is. We can see very easily that it has something to do with like the weather or is triggering them. But they may be having a reaction and we can't figure out what's going on exactly. So, for instance, I work with people who often will tell me, well, they act fine sometimes when they go on a walk, and then other times they're having these reactions. Sometimes they're seeing a dog and they're fine, and sometimes they're seeing a dog and they're having these big reactions to these other dogs, or they're wanting to go home and we don't know why. So there can be a lot of different ways that we see the triggers come out in their behavior, but we may not really know for sure what's going on. So that's where animal communication can come in, because we can understand and connect with the animal through animal communication, which is being able to feel what an animal's feeling. It is sometimes being able to do different senses. So pick up on how the animal's feeling through different senses. So those can be anything from visual, auditory. So that's more like having a sentence go through your mind, or words that because you're connecting with the animal, that it's coming from them. It can be feeling something on your body, like a harmed part of the body, some injury that maybe people sometimes don't always understand or clearly become aware that there's something wrong. Like I'll pick up sometimes things that aren't so obvious. So it's being able to feel something on your body sometimes. It can be smelling something that could be a trigger for an animal that they associate with a traumatic event. It could be a taste that they associate with a traumatic event or loss. It could be just a knowing. So those are all the different ways that telepathic animal communication can come through. So sometimes animals don't completely understand the finality of death. Sometimes they do. Some animals I find are very, they get it. They understand that the perhaps other animal has gone on to another plane, and some animals don't. It's like people, there's just different levels of understanding, experiences. So, okay. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of fumbling around because my teleprompter is not working here. I'm trying to find my space, but you might also find that's why, like, a training you're doing isn't working. And training can be very helpful too with animals who've gone through loss or had some traumatic event or multiple traumatic events. But sometimes people can't figure out why training isn't working, and that's where animal communication can be helpful as well, is to understand, well, what is going on here? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? So that we can better help you and figure out a plan that will work. Okay, so like I mentioned, scientific studies are pointing to certain areas of the brain that are providing tangible evidence via MRIs of how telepathy works. And this is through mirror neurons and magnetic fields of the brain. So I'm going to just show you an image here that is on another website. I'll bring up here. Okay, so this is posted in the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information, and the article is Brain-to-Brain Communication, the possible role of brain electromagnetic fields as a potential hypothesis. Okay, so I just want to scroll down here. Oh wait, can you see this? Yeah. So this image I'm going to show you illustrates what they're seeing. I'm going to explain it. And this is a very in-depth article. I had to read it several times in order to completely, I'm not sure I 100% get every single detail. I mean, it's very scientific, but you might want to go back and take a look at this. I'll also post it in the description. But this is a really general, I'm just going to give you kind of a very general summary of what we're seeing in this picture. So these are the two brains. And so you can see how the information is transferring through the firing of neurons and this magnetic field. And it's being picked up on by the other brain. And you can see they have these steps that are showing like how this process is happening. But let me give you a really quick summary of this is again, very, very brief summary of this. Okay, so this, oh yeah, I was going to go back to this. So there's some kind of receiving going on of the magnetic field, and they're saying that this should be examined in its potential role in direct brain-to-brain communication, so telepathic, and they have to do more research on this, but the present study suggests it is possible that extremely weak magnetic fields of the animal's brain could transmit vital and accurate information to another animal's brain. And they also say a previous study revealed involvement of the hippocampal region in telepathy. These findings raise the question of whether the subconscious regions of the brain plays a central role in telepathy. So I'll definitely put that link in the description if you want to really go in deep and read this article. Go back over here. So yeah, it's really fascinating, and you know, that means that there's interest in studying. See, G is gone. There's interest in exploring this more. So hopefully more and more is going to come out to try to help explain how telepathy works. Of course, those of us who practice animal communication have been doing this for a long time. We don't really question it. It's really neat to better understand maybe actually physically what's happening, but you know, we know from experience that animals are sentient beings. We know that we can pick up on what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they're experiencing. We can relay that information to them. That's why I started doing this channel, in part, was to do things like live animal communication so that people who aren't so familiar with it can actually see it happen, and have people call in here who are just cold calling, who I've never met before and haven't really even spoken to many of them. A lot of people in the past haven't necessarily even let me know they're coming in, or I tell people just to send me, if they do contact me ahead, just a picture and a very brief question, just to demonstrate how this works, that it's real. So I do encourage, if you have questions, you can always post them in the comments. And I'm just seeing if I missed anything. Oh, okay, so you have pet rats, Judy Ann, who are very bonded with siblings. If their sibling passes away, it seems the other rat dies of heartbreak. Even though I tried to be there for them, happened twice. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. That's so sad. And Tammy, I'm trying to find the first part of this. But you're saying your dog doesn't bark anymore, so squeaky toys help her get my attention. Oh, and off topic, Pearl is at it again. Whenever Anne goes live, she rolls around and rubs all over me as if Anne's voice is some sort of audio catnip every time. Oh, that's so sweet. Well, I love that. I love if I can do that for her. Hi, Pearl. So I do. I have a lot of information on here. This is like the 137th episode or 30, I don't know, 138. So there's playlists on here with other demonstrations of things you can do to help your pet with massage and acupressure and animal communication. And then also, if you want to try animal communication just with my free downloadable guided meditation. I don't seem to be here, but here this is. I don't know why it's doing that, but this is free on my website, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com, and you can download it and start practicing with that. And of course, I also have a school for animal communication. Excuse me, I'm sorry. The Animal Intuitive Academy. Gia just jumped up here. She's back. It's Animal Intuitive Academy, and you can find that on my website. Excuse me, intuitivetouchanimalcare.com. And you can either sign up for live classes, private classes, and I have a downloadable class for animal communication, acupressure for you and your pets, and mindfulness. So I don't see any other. Her ears twitched when you said, "Hey, Pearl." Oh my gosh, that's so crazy, really? Oh. I guess she heard me. That's G's tail. She needed a little bit more attention on her terms. So I would love also to hear who's come over from the computers on the screen. This is, thank heavens, my husband's here tonight. Some nights he's not here, but this has just been like a comedy of errors, so thank God he's here tonight to help. So you notice when a running dog, if they nip a chair, the next time around they miss the chair. Do you know what I mean? You notice when a running dog, if they nip a chair. I don't know what you mean. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand that. Do you mean like by nip, do you mean like bump into it and then the next time they remember? I'm not sure if that's what you meant. So, woohoo fluff. Thank you. I really appreciate everyone's patience, especially those of you who've come over new tonight. It's not always this bad. This was pretty bad as far as like just things, literally everything set to go, and then who knows, it just starts falling apart for no reason that I can figure out. So you recently rescued a traumatized dog from a puppy mill. She's afraid of everything. Any tips on how I can help her feel more safe in the world? So, oh yeah, puppy mills. You know, a lot of it has to do with setting things up for success for her, making sure that you're covering kind of all the bases. So she may need training. Being in a puppy mill, they don't really live a normal life. I mean, they don't, so you may find that training's helpful if you haven't started training. Um, and depending on the level of it, you can, to some extent, watch videos and things like that. But then if you need to do more, you might have to go to class or have someone come to you. But um, there's so many things out there. Um, yeah, like Good and L saying, so like organic um, CBDs and essential oils, and I also have a free ebook on my website for essential oils and using them with animals. But there's so many different herbs and things you can look into if she's really, you may need some guidance from I really prefer holistic vets personally, and I'm not saying that there's not a place in the quote unquote Western veterinarians. I'm not putting them down. I mean, absolutely wonderful in an emergency, of course, but holistic vets just sometimes have more to draw from that, maybe isn't going to have some of the, side effects and things like that. But again, I'm not a veterinarian, so, I would talk to them about that. And then I would say animal communication is so important because you can learn to really understand what she's experiencing on a deeper level. And you can also convey information to her and help her to better understand, like, this is a permanent place you're going to be. And we want to understand where you're coming from. And we want to do whatever it is going to take to help you. And so animal communication is a wonderful way to really help them understand that quicker. Animals eventually, hopefully, get that over time when you've treated them well and they've been in your home for a while. But animal communication can accelerate that because you can just let them know that. And you can have a conversation and better understand everything that they're experiencing in the world, just completely through their eyes, through how their body experiences it. So I would really encourage you to get that free communication from my website, guided meditation from my website, and try that with her. And also use the free tools I have in here with acupressure massage just to help her to relax. Okay. Yeah, learning how to convey information is really critical. And it is so wonderful of you to have taken her out of probably, I guess maybe she was in a shelter or foster home or whatever, but wonderful of you to have brought her into your home and given her a great life, infinite kindness. So I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions. And I'm hoping that I didn't miss anything. I had a lot of information. And hi, Marta. Thank you for being here from Fort Collins, Colorado. I have a trip for training for acupressure this summer in Colorado. That's where I did my training for acupressure. I'm going back. We had Tallgrass, Amy Snow from Tallgrass Animal Acupressure Resources on a few weeks ago, and that is kind of based out of Colorado. Okay, so I'm just seeing if I missed anything here. Yeah, the ghost in the machine that comes back to haunt me. Okay, so let's see. Yes, and thank you so much, Melmac. Yeah, please do. If this was helpful, also, I was quick to say, hit the like button, subscribe, and the notification bell. This is Furry Thursdays. We do this every Thursday. Excuse me. Try to be here every Thursday. I've had a little bit of just missed a few, and will be having a few where I'm not here in probably March coming up. I have to do a little helping out a family member, and then I have some trainings. So There's going to be a few, maybe a little inconsistent, but this is Furry Thursdays, and hit your notification bell so that you do get notified when I am here. Yeah, so all right. Well, again, thank you so much for being here, everybody who I love seeing every time I'm here. It's so good to see you again. And then also welcome to everybody who came over from me being on John Kelly's show. He's a great profiler. And if you want to check out his channel, that's at John Kelly Profiler. So if you're interested in true crime, and that episode was just about how pets' involvement in being witnesses in true crime situations. So thank you. I'm glad that you found it helpful despite all the craziness. And thank you all for being here. Love to everybody. And, hopefully we will, oh, that's that class I mentioned on a delay there. But I hope to be back here soon and see everybody again soon. And happy spring coming up too. All right. Take care, everybody, and God bless.
Rub my belly.